This is a horror game podcast. It is meant for mature audiences. It may contain shocking revelations, violence, and sexual themes. Viewer discretion is advised. Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I will be playing World War Cthulhu RPG. I am your host, Thom Raley. We continue with World War Cthulhu London. It was written by Matthew Sanderson and Scott Dorward. The scenario is entitled Midnight Sunrise. Our keeper of arcane lore is Matthew Sanderson, and this is episode 4. A recap will be given by David Gasaway as his character, Melvin Spofford Harris Esquire. So without any further delay, let's continue our journey into the darkness. David?
Well, Joseph Dunbar is dead. I knew the man 17 years, worked closely with him at times. Then I saw a sentient ball of flame crash through his office window and burn him alive. The cursed thing seemed to stare me in the face in a brief pause, setting every sheet of paper in the office aflame. I never imagined the like. Plastic surgeon Dr. Chamberlain, then, who left wealthy heiress Aurora Williams beautiful but paralytic, and Joseph Dunbar, who once represented her against hotelier Thomas Whitaker, whom she blames for the fire that disfigured her in the first place, have now both died in horrific and unexplained fires. The attempts to reach Aurora were stymied, but we hoped to get to Whitaker in time to save him from the same fate. It took a moment to get an audience at the Riverside Hotel, and when we did, we found him hot-tempered, but willing, in the end, to listen to reason. We've now got use of Whitaker's office suite, and perhaps his head of security, to help us lie in wait. But for whom? Aurora? The mysterious John Smith? What has this to do with the curious marble altar put in Teresa's cellar? We've only begun to scratch the surface of this question, but we have procured a number of fireproof garments and an astonishing amount of fire extinguishers. So, we shall see what we shall see.
All right, thank you very much there. This is pretty much open to you. This is quite an open part of the investigation from here. So, with those two actions that have taken place so far, this is to recap Friday morning at this point. You've had your divide and conquer. You've had one group go to Teresa's house, and then you've had the other go to the Riverside Hotel. Where do you want to go from here? Do you want to meet up and discuss what to do next? If so, where do you want to meet? What's the game plan here?
Well, we could meet back at my place. That's next to our neighbors, and seems to be our central location. I wish we... Go ahead.
Or no. That's a good idea to meet back up and say our plans. But if I'm at the hotel, I'd like to look around outside. The woman that was thrown out of the hotel, was she thrown into a cab and it drove away, or was she thrown onto the street? Okay.
Yep, she was thrown into a cab. So the cabs that come to the hotel, you could quite easily track if you wanted to get in touch with someone from the taxi agency, potentially, where that taxi's gone. Or you simply wait for that same taxi. You could say, well, that was the same driver, and wait for the driver to come back and find out where
I don't quite have a reason to inquire yet, but I will inquire on what exactly happened, why she was thrown out in the first place, to the security guards, as we have it in with the security guards because we're buddy with their boss now.
Yeah, that's easy enough. I mean, the concierge definitely fill you in.
So I'll walk up to the concierge. I'll
Yeah,
ask,
there's
what was the deal with the woman that was expelled from the building?
Oh, the persistent problem. Yeah, over the last couple of days, she's been coming in repeatedly, making accusations that Mr. Whitaker's life's been at threat, that she needs to see him immediately, that there's some kind of conspiracy against him, and had generally been making herself a nuisance. And frankly, we can't have that kind of behavior in this establishment, so she was removed from the premises.
Oh, no police were ever involved.
Oh, thankfully, she didn't cause that much of a problem. We didn't have to. We didn't have to involve them.
Huh. Okay. And I'll walk back to the others at the hotel, and
Mhm.
that woman might be onto something, quite frankly.
It sounds like she might know something like we know
Right.
something.
Yes.
And any information that we can get will prove vital to stopping this strange inferno.
Well, if there are other cabs, do cabs have like a centralized company that runs them? Aren't all the British cabs in London the same company?
It's a good question. For sake of ease, we'll say they are. I know that
Okay.
Hackney carriages are registered centrally, but whether they're the same company that runs them all, especially at that time, I think in modern day, I think there are a multitude of different companies that run them.
Yeah.
But
Back then, they had to memorize all of the roads and all the streets, and yeah,
I think they called it the knowledge, or was a kind of a slang term for it, for knowing all the street names.
If we can, I guess the other question would be is if they used a radio to communicate.
Probably not, especially with the war. That such communication could be easily compromised. So probably not a good idea.
So we can't call the cab company and ask them, where did this cab go that just left? They would have no idea what we were talking about
until the driver checks in with them later.
If that driver comes back.
Did we have the number of the cab?
Yeah, I'd say you could certainly,
because we could call and say what driver is at this number. We want to know more information, or we want to commend them, or file a complaint, whatever.
Yeah, that could easily work. So if you wanted to give them a quick call, don't have to go through the whole conversation. But what you would learn is that the driver does the majority of his work around the hotel. It's pretty much he's stationed in the taxi rank and just picks up folks as needed. So he will cycle back round to come back to the hotel eventually.
We could the taxis in the taxi rank probably all know each other too, so we could ask him, who's that guy that just left? Which taxi driver?
And the hotel staff probably know the regular taxi drivers
probably
as well.
True too. Okay, so maybe we can ask then the concierge, whose taxi did she get put into?
Oh yeah, that'll be Jack Hartley. So his cab. Yeah. He's a regular around here. He's a trusted individual, so it's someone that we can rely on to get the work done.
And I've got the name Greenaway from Whitaker, so we've got some degree of carte blanche with the staff, I should think.
So it's a question of whether we want to wait here, which we have no idea how long it could be. It could be hours. He could drive out and half an hour and then half an hour back.
Would give you an idea of how far it's taken to drop her off, because he wouldn't pick up any other job on the way. He would almost certainly come straight back here.
That's true. So we do gain information by waiting. We don't all have to wait.
Well, it's just you and me, Davidge. Who came to see Whitaker?
Well, I am the patient one, if you'd like me to sit here and wait. It seems like something I do quite a bit of.
Yeah, we could wait for him together and then go back. So I guess we'll be situating Teresa again in her house soon, assuming that she's not feeling too traumatized to return. So we can meet back and, get the neighborhood society together, as it were, with you and Gross.
Indeed.
But we could probably get a rather nice tea while we wait.
That sounds wonderful.
Especially at a hotel like this, they would almost certainly have the facility to do a very nice afternoon tea.
Yes, I think that's what we'll do.
I'd say then, as you're preparing to sit down, and maybe as your first pot of tea is brought out, that is when the taxi cab comes back, because it only takes about an hour, so half an hour one way, half an hour back, to be for him to do his round trip.
Oh, so would you be Mr. Jack Hartley?
Yeah, who's asking?
My name is Davidge Green. This is Mr. Melvin Spoffield Harris, Esquire. We were here earlier. We saw you taking a young woman. I don't remember if she was young or not.
She was in her early 30s. Yeah,
a young woman away in your taxi cab, and as it turns out, she's rather important to us solving a bit of a mystery. Could you tell us where you took her?
And he promptly describes the young lady again, the kind of working class outfit, kind of average appearance, etc. That the lady you're talking about, the one I've just taken
Yes.
to dropped her at an address in Newham, so not a massive distance away, just takes a bit of traffic through the day to get over there and back.
Do you happen to recall the number offhand? It turns out,
go on.
Yeah, she came here to warn Mr. Whitaker of impending danger and was taken for a nutter, but in fact, we believe that she might have useful information.
Yes.
Yeah, he certainly remembers the address, and he will give that to you. It's an address just on the kind of the outskirts of East Ham, which is part of the wider borough of Newham.
Oh, well, Mr. Hartley, thank you very much for your troubles, and I'll slip him a $5.
Oh wow, that's definitely a lot of money. So yeah, he very much takes that with kind of you made his week kind of look on his face. Oh, thank you very much there, Mister. I mean, what kind of mystery is it that you're looking into?
Oh, well, we also came to the conclusion that the gentleman inside was in some sort of danger, but it's nothing to be concerned with.
Oh, all right then.
Yes, and so before we leave, I'll tell Greenaway that I'll be in touch about coming back for our reconnaissance of Whitaker's office.
Yep, he'll make sure that someone on the desk, if he's not here for whatever reason, which is unlikely, at least he will prep the other members of staff that they are to give you all their cooperation as required.
Brilliant.
I forget, how did we get here? Did we drive?
You certainly can have.
Okay. Oh, we could take the cab.
But there you go.
No, we drove. So, shall we finish our tea first, and then?
I don't think she's going anywhere. Residential address.
Yes. Right.
And then off we go.
And then all 5 of you are heading off to that address, or anyone else planning on dividing and conquering?
Well, I think we were going to head back, at least temporarily, to convene at...
If the others are at Gross's place, then we could phone them there and tell them where the address is.
Ah, that's a good idea. So we'll do that. You handle that.
Yep, so you can all converge.
We coordinate.
If only we had cell phones.
You see, that crazy science fiction things like that just won't ever take off. But
how did people coordinate these sort of things way back when?
People used to make plans
Mm-hmm.
and then do them. So we'll all meet up. I assume is it a freestanding home? Or is it a row house? I assume it's modest based on her mode of dress to go to the Riverside Hotel.
Yes, certainly right there. It's a terrace house. So it's one of a long row of like former workmen's or factory workers' houses. So it's definitely lower class housing. And even then, once you arrive, you see that there is a sign in the door, or sign in the window rather, next to the door, that has no vacancy. So it implies that this is effectively like a B&B, boarding house.
Boarding house. Well, gentlemen, we filled you in on the details. The mystery thickens.
It does indeed.
I imagine, Angrave, you're more accustomed than many of us to dealing with landladies of houses such as this and figuring out who the tenant is we wish to speak to without getting a ruckus raised.
Yeah, I might actually know the landlady, depending.
Remarkable.
We'll see.
You can give me a luck roll and make it a really good one to see if you do know random landlady.
But first, luck refresh.
Yep, indeed. Remember to do that if you haven't already done so.
Yeah. No, I rolled no 3. Should have saved that.
Ah.
All right.
Lead the way, Mr. Engrave.
I rolled no. What the fuck? I rolled no 1.
An 01?
Yes.
Okay. Give me
His
a
sister.
power check.
A power? Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I failed the POW.
Good. Gain 1d10 power.
Huh? Oh, shit. That's
is
a rule.
an obscure rule that is so very infrequently ever happens in a game. If you roll an 01 on a luck check, you get a potential POW improvement.
All right. Well, my POW is improved by
There you
6.
go.
That's incredible. Lucky.
Yeah. The only other way is the main way, because this is under the bracket of how sorcerers get that way, is if you win opposed POW checks, then if you succeed, you can then also make a potential POW improvement. It's like flexing your POW muscles. But yeah, it also counts for luck as well. He's so stunned, we've frozen him in place.
God. His power is too much.
He's become overpowered.
Frozen time.
Positively glowing.
Going.
So with your 01, you definitely know this lady who runs this particular boarding house.
I've worked the case before.
Yeah, she's come up in some of your previous inquiries. This would be Mary Leahy, a lovely lady who is very much locally born and bred. Yeah.
All right. So I will see her in her office or her room. And
pretty much downstairs room. It's a 3-story building. So it's she has kind of like a ground floor apartment as such, that she lives on the ground floor, and then her tenants have the upper 2 floors.
Great. So you said her name was Mary?
Yes, Mary.
Okay, well, and it's the afternoon?
I would say it is by very just afternoon, so very early afternoon by this point.
Well, good afternoon, Mary. It's me, Edgar.
Yeah, interesting to see you again. What brings you to these parts?
I'm working another case, and I was hoping that you could help me out. I have a gentleman.
If I can.
Yes, I'm looking for one of your boarders, and if one of you gentlemen could describe this woman that you saw.
I'm afraid I didn't see her that closely, but she will have arrived less than 40 minutes ago in a taxi cab. She's early 30s, plainly dressed, regular looking sort. And we believe she's a tenant here.
Yeah, I mean, they've only got the one female tenant that lives, or that even vaguely matches that description. Yeah, that'd be Joyce Dobs.
Joyce Dobs.
Yeah, she's only up on the next floor.
Oh, do you mind giving us the room number?
Yeah, I mean, she's basically the first
the floor,
first apartment. So, I mean, I can go introduce you if you want. So knock on the door and kind of get her to open up.
We'd love that.
Okay, yeah,
you're very gracious, Mary.
She does a little bow. I try.
What impression does she give of her? What does she seem to think of Joyce Dobbs? Should I roll psychology, or does she light up, or is she like, oh, Joyce Dobbs, strange man?
You can certainly give me a psychology roll if you're studying her reaction. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, I have an extreme success. Probably
Okay.
kind of a waste of a 5, but
No, you think that there's no real animosity here. There's nothing that's kind of that latter kind of her kind of reaction. No, it's very much she's actually one of the better tenants that she's had. There's nothing hostile. There's no cause for concern, and if anything is mildly, oh yeah, I know her, kind of a pleasant reaction to hearing the name.
excellent. Up we go.
Does she, well, before I would like to ask, does she have any company over ever? Do you know any of her associates? Like, for example, a truck, maybe?
Company? No, I mean she's been going out a lot over the course of the last few weeks, basically trying to find work. But I understand she's between employments at the moment. But
Interesting.
no, she doesn't really bring anyone back to go back to her apartment. No.
No truck. You haven't seen one around? I mean,
Truck,
they're
definitely.
probably around everywhere.
No, definitely no truck. I mean, I thought she was some kind of she was looking for employment as a maid, not in kind of transportation or in haulage. No, that does sound very, very odd.
And before, do you know where she worked? Probably
Oh,
not.
she used to work somewhere down in Greenwich, I think she said. Used to work in a private household down there, but she was let go sometime late last year, from what she was mentioning, and she's been basically trying to look for more recent employment now, as it seems like her either golden parachute or golden handshake, whichever the two she got, is starting to run out.
And that was not the area that we were just in. We were in like north.
We were in Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
But the three of you that went to go and see Aurora, she lives in Greenwich. So you head up the stairs, following Mary, and she knocks on the door. Says, "Yeah, Miss Dobbs, you in?" And there's a definite sound of movement from behind the door, and then the door opens, and indeed the lady that the two of you saw at the hotel is stood there, looking a little bit drawn, as if kind of almost a bit of her wit's end, but is trying to put a decent face on things. And says,
Hello.
"Yes, hello there.
You must be Joyce.
You have me at a disadvantage. Hello, everyone." And
I believe we
she's
need
looking
to
at
talk.
these 5 people in the corridor, or 6 people in the corridor.
Miss Dobbs, sorry for the intrusion. We have just come, you see, from the hotel. We also went to see Mr. Whitaker out of concern for his well-being.
Oh,
If that helps explain our presence suddenly upon your doorstep.
right. I think you best come inside then, if that's all right with Miss Leahy. And your gracious hostess says, "Oh, of course, of course. By all means, come on in. Go on in." And Mary turns to Edgar and says, "Do you want me to accompany you, or you're happy taking it from here?"
We'll take it from here. Thank you.
Oh, if you need anything, just give me a shout, or stamp on the floor. I'll hear it.
Very well.
And yep, she starts heading back downstairs. Right,
Joyce, we believe you.
What, you believe me? But
Yes.
okay, how did you find out?
Well,
It just so happened that we saw you being escorted out, and after we got through to Whitaker, who is an extremely difficult man to see, we had a connection in common, so it worked out for us. But when we learned that you'd tried to warn him, we hope that you could help us figure out exactly what's going on
right, because we don't have the full picture.
From it.
Right. Well, yes, please. I'm sorry about the state of the place. I mean, she gestures around to the apartment, which is relatively sparsely furnished. There's very basic furniture here. There's a couple of sofas. a table with a couple of chairs and very basic layout. She'll invite you to take the comfortable seats while she sits on one of the wooden chairs by the table. I'm not really sure how much you're going to believe this, but I mean, I shouldn't even be. I should, by all rights, I shouldn't really be saying any of this. But my previous employer did pay me a quite considerable amount to guarantee my silence, but then people started ending up turning up dead, and I just feel I can't stay silent. I've got to do something to try and prevent this from escalating.
I think that whatever arrangement you made with Ms. Williams, you can consider null and void at this point, as most contracts do not cover multiple arsons.
Well, arson, or at least playing with fire, is definitely her thing. That's the main reason why I ended up leaving her employ.
So you're
Gentlemen,
saying
let's not jump to too many conclusions. Let's allow Miss Dobbs to tell us her side of the story. And believe me, Miss Dobbs, we're quite open-minded about very strange things.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You're going to have to be open-minded for this one, because this isn't logical. This isn't sane. This is crazy talk.
Don't worry. We're very open-minded. Very open. As I just look up at the ceiling as if I'm trying to look up at the sky.
Yeah, she almost follows your gaze, and almost you see almost like a shiver go down her spine, and she looks back down to the rest of you, even on a hot day like this. Well, this goes back a little bit. I mean, before I start talking into much detail, do you know much about Miss Williams's history and the accident that happened with her that left her quite badly disfigured?
We know a bit, but perhaps there's stuff that you know that we don't. So please indulge us.
Okay, well, it goes back to a few years now that she was involved in an accident at a hotel in, I think it was Switzerland or somewhere on the continent. It's not massively important where it is, but she came back with very, very bad disfigurement. She's very heavily burned across her body, particularly her face, and that she employed the services of a Harley Street surgeon that was quite adept in this newfangled plastic surgery, and she had a good job. I mean, they reconstructed her face perfectly, but that she just doesn't have the muscles just don't work anymore. That she's not able to convey emotion. It's a really disconcerting thing to see her get angry. That her voice gets very angry, but the face just shows it's almost like a dummy talking. That there's just no visual emotion there. It's such a weird, in some instances kind of very disturbing quality about her. And she was so upset by this that she removed every mirror in her house. She can't stand looking at her own reflection, and she just completely withdrew from society after that. There was a whole debacle about her lawyer betraying her and effectively siding with the man that she believed was that Miss Williams believed was responsible for the fire, and so she just ended up becoming a recluse. And I think that something inside her head just kind of snapped, that she'd been not alone in the house. I mean, she had all of us as the members of staff there to keep her company, and we became like a family to her, and we were all really close. I mean, she treated us really well as well. I mean, she was the best employer I could have hoped for and she pauses for a minute and looks up again. Yeah, until last winter. And she got it into her head that if she could control flame, if she could control fire, that she might be able to reverse the damage that had been done to her. I mean, I know it's insane talk, but she was able to do stuff. she put out feelers to bookstores all across the country, and probably even all across the city, all across the country, and eventually got hold of this book, this really old book. She gestures to make on the size of this thing. It's probably an octavo volume, so about 6x8. It's going to be it's a fairly small, slender volume. That handwritten. This wasn't even printed, this thing, but it had all these annotations and notes around the marginalia around the outside of each page. That once she deciphered this book, I mean, deciphered the handwriting, apparently was pretty poor. That she believed that something terrible was going to happen, and she convinced us to go with her to one of her warehouses down in the Docklands, down near Silvertown, to, as she called it, to call a falling star. And that's when I decided that, well, not before, but when she cast this thing, and there was literally a ball of flame, a sentient ball of living flame that came down out of the night sky. That I was convinced that she was messing in powers that frankly was not meant for anyone besides God. That she was messing with something unholy. And the other members of staff thought this was wondrous. This was something completely magical. This was something beyond what they'd ever thought was capable in life, and they were entranced by it. And I was the only one that thought this was a terrible thing. And I voiced my concerns to Miss Williams, and we came to arrangement that I would leave, and that I wouldn't say a word of what she'd done or what was happening. But of course, then I read in the newspaper about say Dr. Chamberlain, and then the news that's just broke from yesterday about Mr. Dunbar, and I couldn't wait after I'd say especially after Chamberlain. I knew that she hated him so much, or that she hated but resented him so much for the position that he'd put her in, and left her with this face of hers, that I was worried it was she was eventually going to do something against Mr. Whittaker, and I didn't want to have his death on my conscience either. If I didn't act and something bad happened to him, I would never forgive myself. So how did you come to know about her messing with the arcane dark arts?
It's a long story.
I happen to be friends and neighbors with all my names.
Well, her name's not important.
My neighbor was apparently having an affair with Mr.
Dunbar.
Mr. Dunbar.
Yeah, her name was Teresa Hughes. Then
Teresa,
Dunbar.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, a friend of mine was having an affair with Mr. Dunbar, and he was due to be at her house in the evening, but he didn't arrive. But somebody attempted to burn her house to the ground, and that's when we became involved. Some of us, not me personally, saw what seemed to be a ball of flame, as you yourself have described. We went to warn Mr. Dunbar the next day, and we were actually present in his office when he was killed by the same sentient ball of flame.
She goes white at mention of that.
And so we have taken it upon ourselves to find the other people involved and warn them as well. But we didn't quite understand. We had suspicions as to what might be driving this magical ball of flame. We're not sure who all the victims would be or who's behind it, but now it seems to be that our original idea is behind the motivation, revenge for the damage that she suffered would be driving her hatred and her sending this ball of flame out to attack the people that she feels are responsible.
Miss Dobbs, did you ever know Miss Williams to have in her possession anything like a triangular block of marble?
She looks a little bit not perplexed, but she tries to remember. And yeah, I think there was something that I think it was a marble slab that she had commissioned. That was for that when she called down that falling star that night in the Docklands. That yeah, I think there was she used a slab then. Just like a marble slab, I thought it was at the time.
Did she have a servant or a friend named, what was it, Anthony?
Yeah, there was an Anthony.
Yeah, emphasis on was. Oof.
Oh, is it what's happened to him?
He also met the falling star. He appears to have taken the marble triangle into a private home in an attempt to use it to trap Dunbar, but it didn't work out.
But Anthony Morris.
Well,
He was always a nice man. He wouldn't do something like that.
I would
he
just
may not
gesture
have.
to my face.
Yeah.
He may not have fully understood what it was he was doing, but was he present at the calling of this thing?
Yeah, he was there.
Well, then he may be under her influence. We were not able to get in to see her. Her servants wouldn't let us in. But now that I think about it, we may have moved in that direction far too quickly. She may be well aware of us now, which puts us all in danger.
Well, Edgar had the sense not to leave a card.
Did you by chance ever see the title of this book? It sounds, you said, handwritten manuscript, so was it like a diary?
No, it was I remember saying a little bit about it, that it was apparently a tome from the Renaissance. It was written in German. It had a long German title, but something like Book of Forbidden Arts.
Oh, that's interesting. Can I do like a
You can do me an
roll?
occult roll if you want to see if you can identify this, because it is a real book.
And it is a. I guess it would definitely fall under my remit of obscure.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely.
It doesn't sound like Abramelin. Or what's the other
significantly older than that.
What's this? Where is my occult?
It's not that Von Chance thing.
30, there's a hard success. 30 out of 70 hard success.
Okay. Yeah, what she's describing, the size could vary depending on what edition that she's talking about. But yeah, the only one that you can think of about Book of Forbidden Arts, that's the English title. The original German is Das Buch aller verboten Kunst, if I got my pronunciation right, by one Johannes Hartlieb, published in Munich in 1456. And it's a Renaissance book, not printed, they were handwritten copies originally, that deal with the 7 forbidden arts as laid down by canon law. So the 7 ars magica. So aeromancy, chiromancy, geomancy, hydromancy, pyromancy, necromancy, and the previously discussed kitchen utensil spatulamancy. But yeah, the book is a quite dry occult magic tome.
And you said it was John Hartley?
Johann Hartlieb.
Yes, Johann Hartlieb.
That's odd because our taxi driver was Jack Hartley.
Hartley, not Hartlieb.
Oh, hot leap. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, interesting. I
So,
look up at the sky again.
uh, how many, when you departed, Miss Dobbs, how many staff then remained, and how many men and women?
Ooh, there'd probably be the best part of a dozen.
And when these fellows attempted to get an audience with her and were rebuffed, who would be sort of a major domo or a figure that would turn people away?
Oh, the main butler. Uh, that would be. Ooh, she would know the name off the top of her head. I, however, do not. One sec. Brown. Yeah, Mr. Brown.
And you
Brown with an
found
E.
him agreeable to work with as well in your days?
He's a little bit standoffish, but very much has her best interests at heart. That he is, again, very, very loyal to her. That he's stuck by her through thick and thin, and she's very much rewarded him for that.
Now, how many loyal staff does Williams have? The
Well,
ones
after
that
this,
she brought to that warehouse. How many of them were there?
well, there were originally the 12 of us, so she would have, after I left, she would have 11 left.
No more than 9, unless Brown's been out doing some hiring. Uh, have you done any office or clerical work, Miss Dobbs?
I've only done a little bit here and there. I've been trying to look for work after the money I was given by her at the end of last year. It's now pretty much started to run out, so I've had to start looking around for more employment. I mean, primarily I was employed as a maid, so I've not got much by way of administrative skills, but I know how to at least push buttons on a typewriter, just not very quick.
Hmm. Well, after Paul Dunbar's law office is rebuilt after the fire, I'll see if I can find a job on the staff for you there, even if it's a cleaning situation.
Her eyes light up, and you can see this is not only has it made her month, it's probably made the best part of her year. And yeah, you can see her eyes start to water up in gratitude.
Gross pipes in and says, I could also find you a job as well if need be, if Swafford Harris cannot. I have quite a large staff myself that help with some of my clerical jobs and cleaning, so I'm always looking for people.
Yeah, you can see her jaw kind of goes a little lax, almost as if she would be trying to catch flies, as the expression goes. I've been searching for employment for about a couple of months and not finding anything, and now I've got two offers in the space of as few a minutes. Well, I can't thank you enough.
We don't want you having to go back on your word to Miss Williams after all. I'm sure it
Yes.
was a hardship for you to feel disloyal after all that time, but I think given what seems to have happened to her and her staff, I think you were very wise to get out when you did.
I worry about her. I just worry that whatever she's done has kind of corrupted her, or some. I just don't know what's going on with her. This is madness. This isn't stuff that we were meant to know. This is she is meddling and playing with the power reserved for God.
God or gods, yes. Um, Gentlemen, do you have any other questions, or should we leave this gentle lady to her afternoon?
Well, if she has a hand mirror or a pocket mirror I could borrow, that'd be very useful.
Oh yeah, she'll certainly have one. She says, "Hey, keep it." Now that I've got at least 2 job offers, I've got money to afford to buy another one.
There you go. I'll take her pocket mirror guilt-free.
There you go.
Is that protection against Aurora?
Yes, if we anger her, well, we can probably anger her, get her to slip up if she sees her own reflection.
We don't really need. I mean, there are shops in London. We don't actually have to take a mirror from
It's
Miss
convenient
Dobbs.
now. And might be fitting that it's her mirror.
Yes.
Something
I leave
there.
I leave some details with Miss. She can
Yep,
use.
definitely leaves like a calling card, etc. Yeah.
Indeed.
Does she have any family at all remaining, Miss Williams? Do you know of?
She's got some relatives, no siblings, no parents, but I think she's got a couple, an aunt and uncle. So that the wider family, there is definitely some connection to. Not that she reached out to them at all after what had happened to her. I think she was too embarrassed or too shy to do so.
Yes. So there's no one she's really close to except the staff.
Yeah, no immediate family. There's pretty much her and her entourage, or like I said, her adopted family. You could almost put it as we pretty much became.
And she didn't have any sort of guru or anything. She was doing this esoteric research on her own.
Yeah, as I said, she got this demented idea in her head that if she could control flame, that she could try and reverse the damage that had been done to her, and she started putting out feelers to try and get as many books on the subject as possible from various different contacts that she had in, say, in booksellers in London and across the country. But it was all self-taught as far as I know. I'm not aware of there being any kind of guru or any other figure. It's all stuff that she professed to be self-taught in.
And in addition to resenting Dunbar for betraying her in the settlement, Whitaker for the fire happening in the first place, and Chamberlain for being imperfectly able to repair her, did she have any other objects of enmity that you know of?
You can see almost see the cogs turning, and no, I don't believe so. If anything, it was a very almost all-consuming hatred of those three that maybe blinded out anyone else. But I certainly can't remember anyone that she had as that kind of intense dislike to.
Hmm. Well, maybe it's all over with then, with Whitaker out of the country. Duly warned. Did
Well,
she speak in German to the dancing star?
Well, she was, I presume still is, a multilinguist. I mean, she used to travel all over Europe, all over the world, and I know that she could definitely speak German. She could speak French, Spanish, Italian, and a few of the classics as well that from back in her days of education. But
Right.
yeah, I know this book was written in German, but I personally can't speak it. It might as well be Greek to me.
Yes.
I'm wondering if such a book is available at the library, British Library, copy of it, or so forth. I should like very much to take a look at it.
It wouldn't have the
Perhaps.
same notes in the margins.
Perhaps
No,
not, but there
but
might
it
also
would
be
give an
some
insight.
an advice on perhaps counter spells or counter things.
Yeah, this
Yes.
is quite formidable, gentlemen. We have
Any
a
inf
very politically powerful woman, very financially
Indeed.
powerful woman, and now she's mad with power from an unnatural source.
And as to being any information we can get is useful to us. So just by having a blank copy of the
What?
text would be useful. Can anyone speak German?
Oh,
I can.
actually,
That German 40%.
Because I could speak many languages, but German is apparently not one of them.
Also, bear in mind when you go that far back that you're looking at the 15th
Middle High.
century.
Yeah.
Oh,
Middle High
It's
German.
not going to be modern German.
No.
So you're going to have to roll at least a hard difficulty for if you're just using modern German to try and translate this thing.
I only have Latin, unfortunately.
That's it.
One question I have for her is, in terms of this apocalyptic event, what was the details on that?
Well, I remember that the book itself discussed pyromancy, which is the ability to divine the future, and that she said she saw something horrible, something terrible coming, and that she had to try and convince us that what she'd seen was real, and that this display down at the warehouse in Silvertown was supposed to be that demonstration, because she couldn't get us to see the upcoming apocalypse, as she called it, unless we believed and were willing enough to try and learn this spell, this incantation of gazing into the fire to see what was coming. That very much, even though we would say we're all very much a family, we were all skeptical up until the point where she called down this ball of fire out of the sky, and maybe the others have maybe learnt some of what she was learning, and maybe seen this upcoming disaster. Even if there is one, I don't know what it is that she saw. She just said the world was ablaze.
It would make sense from the gods in the sky, as I again look up at the sky. But we will get to the bottom of this. I'm sure we will. There could be a reasonable explanation, or, well, I don't think there is any reasonable explanation at this point, but we can get to the bottom of it.
I hope so. I'm hoping that there's body count stops here.
Yes, I sure hope so.
Right. So can take it seemingly then that you're leaving Dobbs's apartment. Where or what do you want to do next? There was mention of the British Library, if you want to go there.
Yeah, definitely the British Library is there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Won't take long to find out whether they have anything of the sort in their collection.
Well,
yes, and between the two of us, David knows German, and then between our occult knowledge as well, we can hopefully.
Considering our occult backgrounds, we're probably card carrying, because usually a lot of the stuff you would have to get clearance for.
I probably definitely have.
We probably both do, yeah.
Because
wear the white gloves, touch old books.
Right. Who wants to give me? Well, in fact, this would be a group luck roll rather than a single person. So whoever has the lowest luck, give me a roll.
I have 66.
I have 60. Look.
62.
I have 55.
You need to keep your mouth shut.
Sorry.
And what's Melvin got?
Oh, sorry, luck.
Yeah, lower than 55, right?
Yeah, I'm 51.
Thank God, because I rolled a 77.
There we go. Right, over to Melvin.
And I rolled a 51. Spot on.
Nice.
But hang on, okay. In which case, because one of the things that they obviously prepared when war was announced, and there was the fear of the imminent impending bombing campaign, which is yet to materialize, a lot of the rarer books from the British Library and the collections were completely transferred out of there and moved into converted underground stations that were effectively very deep level shelters and bunkers. As it happens, this particular book has not been moved, that it has not been considered rare enough to be stationed away or put in a vault somewhere. So when you get to the British Library, you can ask for it, and they can bring it up to you. They'll ask that you wear or gloves when you handle this thing because it is exceptionally old. But yeah, it is a real book.
Excellent.
Right? Who wants to give me a hard German roll to try and translate this thing?
Well, in Leland, you might be able to help us some, because when you get back to Middle High German, there is a lot of Latin influence in some of the texts. So, I got where's my German? German was 40. I got a 54. That's a lot of luck to spend.
Do you want to spend 14 to know what this thing is?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay. Right. I'll just read the whole description of the mundane part of the book.
I think my character is greedy for the knowledge. So
It's all interesting stuff. So it's a leather-bound book. It's 8x6 in size with a hub spine. There are metal-covered corners. The covers are decorated with 3 rectangular bands comprising of classical iconography surrounding a central gold leaf coat of arms that has long worn away into obscurity. 2 leather straps hold the book closed. The interior text is handwritten in a flowing black script in German. Paragraphs at the start of a new section are written in red ink and begin with a large capital letter straddling 2 lines of text. There are, on average, 24 lines of text on each page. The book is approximately 160 pages in length. There are no illustrations, only text. And this Renaissance work discusses in detail the 7 Ars Magica as previously outlined. The main body of the text only takes a few hours to read, and there is no odd content. So it is a normal, mundane occult text in that sense.
So when you say no odd content, we're not seeing any.
It's not a mythos tome.
It's not a mythos tome.
Correct. So whatever Aurora has learned must have been in those marginalia that were around the different pages. The texts that have been written after the book had been penned. But you now have a good knowledge of what at least the real or mundane pyromancy rituals involved. So you'd be able to potentially then put another half of that puzzle together if you got the marginalia to read through.
I see. Okay.
And is there anything about a marble triangle in there? Or did she get that from her extracurricular?
The only reference to triangle is that it's the alchemical symbol for fire. So it's a triangle is mentioned, but there's nothing specific about making like a slab out of marble. So again, that may be stuff that she's got from the marginalia or maybe from another source, but it's certainly not that's anything that's contained here.
Now,
but it is a powerful symbol.
I am curious. These are all copied out, like monks would do in a monastery.
Yeah.
But are they in black letter?
Yes, the black letter with a red font to designate the beginning of a paragraph.
Okay, but no little illumination around everything.
None of the text is illuminated. It is quite a basic written book. And as an aside, if any of you wanted to have a look later, and likewise any listeners, you can find scanned copies of this particular book online, which is the reference I
found it also. Yeah.
There you go.
But these are obviously copies, or do we actually have in our hands the original?
Oh, it's an original, so it would have been one of the original copies that were made, because there would be multiple copies of the book that would have been written.
All right, so she had a copy, and somebody, either she or somebody before her, made a number of annotations throughout the book, referencing other things.
Very unfortunately.
So if we could find out where she got her copy and from whom, although I don't see how that's even possible.
Well, there is a way of doing that, and I did take this into account. because the bookseller community in London is very much focused around one particular street, Charing Cross Road. So if anyone was going to have any kind of idea or connections as to where a book like this could have been found or sold, all you have to do is go up and down Charing Cross Road to try and find that particular bookstore that has information about that.
That's a very good idea. And we're probably quite familiar with some of those booksellers.
Yes.
Indeed, yeah.
Well, that's a fun little project for George and I.
Indeed.
If unless you want to come with us, it will be quite boring. But
well, not for us,
but
not for me and
fruitful.
you.
But
No,
somewhat
I
fruitful.
think
It will be fascinating.
we should return to the office in the hotel and begin our preparations for intercepting the fallen star. Perhaps if we
Volunteer to do
can,
that.
Bucket
perhaps
of
if
water.
40 fire extinguishers, it danced away from it as though it didn't want to be touched.
We'll have more fire extinguishers this time.
We'll have, yes, a cartload. Leland is obsessed with the truck, so perhaps he can be downstairs and spot and perhaps even intercept it. And Angrave and I, and after you've done your book shopping, you can join us at the hotel if you wish. But I expect she'll try to strike him. She seems to be quite impatient.
This is going to sound a little silly, perhaps, but could there be something at a local foundry that might give us an assistance? Don't they use special gloves that are used to handle molten metal and something of great temperature? A crucible, perhaps, to trap the thing in?
I just want to chill it out of existence. I don't really want to trap it.
Well, you trap it, then you douse it with water.
Also,
or
keep in mind that in order for both of these people to get got, there needed to be something planted in there in order for the thing to be attracted to that particular position.
Well,
So-
we don't know whether the marble. I mean, we thought the marble altar was important, and Dobs implied that it was, but we have no reason to believe that one got into Dunbar's office. Although
Well, yeah,
maybe that's what Smith was doing.
Yeah,
We
the
didn't-
umbrella.
We didn't ask her about Smith.
You can rewind and potentially either go back to her place or give her a call on the phone if you want to ask her about him.
Yes. While these guys are poring over the Middle Hyde, whatever Swiss German, I'll just phone the boarding house and have a word.
Sure.
Was there anyone named Smith in Aurora Williams' employ, to your knowledge?
Smith, common name, but I can't remember. I don't recall anyone by that name in her employ. No.
Was there anyone on the staff that you would describe as exceptionally bland and difficult to notice?
Only myself, I would have thought, but no, I wouldn't say that there's anyone that fits that kind of description. They all have fairly distinguishing features.
She didn't have guests at all, right? She was entirely a recluse.
Oh, very much. She just completely shunned any kind of visitor.
So we're looking for a peculiar man who carries an umbrella when it's hot out.
That definitely doesn't ring any bells.
It was a bit of a long shot, but I want to leave no stone unturned. Thank you again. You'll be hearing from us.
No. Now, thinking of no stone unturned, if people are thinking about that, you can give me idea rolls to see if there's maybe, by piecing together little bits of what you've got, you might be able to reach a few conclusions.
A regular success.
Okay.
what was the roll for?
Idea.
Just idea to see if you think when Melvin mentions about no stone unturned, that whether there's anything about that particular slab that you might be able to piece together as to what some ideas of what is used for what.
I got a
Okay.
James Bond. 007.
I got okay. You're not gonna believe me, but I got no one.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, there is no benefit for rolling an 01 on idea checks. But
that's
definitely there is
fine.
one.
But like, this is ridiculous. I don't know what's happening with my dice.
Your dice are setting you up for a fall. That's what they do with me.
Yeah.
So, with an 01, I will fire some bits over some bits over to you. If you think back to what happened in the garden, back at the back of Teresa's place, the thing that came down out of the sky did so after the fella had had his cigarette lit for him. He stared very intently at the flame, and then a few moments later, this thing came falling down out of the sky. Admittedly, the stone was there at the time, but was it necessarily needed? Was it a component in what this?
Yeah, it does sound like a ritual component.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he actively was using it because that stone was covered under a tarp in the next garden. So it's too far away. He wouldn't have known where it was. He couldn't really have used it. So you think it's outside of the stone being used to call one of these things down. Now, Aurora used a similar one from what you've got with the description from Dobs, but if it had been marinated or covered in blood, that's probably something she would have mentioned about. So you're thinking the particular slab, the triangle that was covered in blood, probably serves another purpose entirely, but you don't have enough info as to what that purpose could be yet. So that is an unknown, but that thing does something else entirely. It doesn't call these balls of flame down from the sky.
We do know she was trying to heal herself. Maybe it was like some blood capture.
Mm-hmm. That was definitely her intention, but whether there was anything that was
Why
in
would it
the
be
book
there?
that could do it. But then also when you think back to the event in Dunbar's office, there was no triangle, stone, or any ritual component there.
Right.
Yeah, there wasn't even a lit fire in Dunbar's office before the fireball came in.
Correct. So whatever must have been done from further afield. This thing, if anything, with your O1, you'd think would have been commanded to go to do this job. This was fulfilling an order it was given.
I'm
So
leaning towards
no one summoned it there.
Yeah, I was kind of leaning towards the fact that they might need fire in order to channel their magics, and maybe the person who summoned it at Dunbar's office just lit a cigarette across the street.
And we kind of thought that in the garden that they were just servants, but they summoned it, or the man summoned it.
So they all know.
They're all knowing
they all have
magic.
this ability. So in case there is a confrontation, be wary of any open flame. I would actually prioritize the open flames more so than ever, so they can't do whatever heinous magics.
Well, they could just carry a match in their pocket and have.
Yeah, and then we can spray it with the fire extinguisher.
Well, but the thing came crashing through the window. It's not as though we could douse London so that there's no flames for them to use without.
The ARP wardens across the city would thank you if you could do that.
Indeed.
Because that would make their life a lot easier.
Right, but when we've got, 3 to 5 agents in Whitaker's office armed with 2 fire extinguishers each, that bloody little fire devil will have a hell of a time getting out.
Exactly.
Some buckets of sand. I don't think we need to go to find some forging equipment. I think we want to get some good fireproof gloves and, just prepare for dousing the place.
Yeah, the buckets of sand is also a good idea.
Easily procured.
You don't even have to go to the beach to get it. But you can definitely get hold of some gauntlets. I'm not going to put any barriers in the way there. So you can have a couple of asbestos lined gloves they'll do wonders for you in the future.
This is great. So while Green and Gross scour the street for their book
The source of the
seller,
book.
I suppose the three of us shall take up position, waiting.
You're waiting back at the hotel, yes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right. I think what order should we do this in? I think probably what would happen, because I know because the timing of what goes down is important here. So you'd probably finish the bookstore run, say going down Charing Cross Road before anything happens at the hotel. So, in which case, Davidge and Melvin, you're the two going down Charing Cross Road?
Yes.
Okay. You do find there's a couple of the major bookstores are very much the ones that deal with more odd texts. Particularly rare occult texts would fall into this, but also very rare historical texts as well. So very much antiquarian bookstores. And yeah, one of the gentlemen you speak to in there, a fellow by the name of Thomas Clark, so runs Clark Books, the Clark Bookshop.
Oh, Mr. Clark.
Yeah, he's almost certainly a person you've dealt with before. He is a bookseller of repute, so he is someone that has a good reputation behind him. He's an upstanding gentleman. He will be not bound by any kind of client confidentiality, but will quite happily tell you that yes, I did indeed sell a copy of this Book of Forbidden Arts to a Miss Williams last year. I was a little bit disappointed because I put out some feelers to be able to get hold of a copy of the book, but the only one that I could procure ended up being swamped with marginalia. There was lots of extra text that had been added to the book or to the margins of the book that I thought might detract from the actual contents that she was after.
In the provenance, were you ever able to figure out who had made all the marginalia?
I'm not a particularly my German could do with some improvement, shall we say? But
the marginalia was
it.
also in German.
Yes, it was. Yes, very much a different hand. It was very much a different handwriting. It was must have been written some, I would maybe say, hundreds of years after the original book was produced. But from what I remember, there was no signature or name inside. It was purely comments by previous readers, almost maybe students of the occult or students of Renaissance arts.
No list of previous owners.
Not that I'm aware of. But if you're looking for provenance of where some of these tomes can come from, I mean, I only have obviously the seller that I'd originally picked this up from.
Mm-hmm.
But an associate of mine, he runs a bookstore just off Trafalgar Square. He might be able to help you if you wanted to go and pay him a visit.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
As it turns out, we are interested in the marginalia as much as the book itself.
Yes.
Oh. They actually seem to have added. They have some worth after all, then.
Indeed.
And this bookseller, is his name? What's his name?
Oh, what was his name?
Goodman, Lester Goodman.
If only I'd written this before that idea had germinated into my head. No, I know he's. I can't remember for the life of me what the fella's name was. But I remember the fella that I've dealt with over there. He's not the owner of the store, but I believe he works there at sometimes. Reginald Fotheringay. That he's the main point of contact I've had before.
Reginald Fotheringay.
Yeah, they call him. He likes to be called Reggie for short. Reggie Fotheringay.
That's a very, very upper class name.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a refined gentleman. So
Oh, well,
definitely,
it's good to know.
yeah, carries himself with a good degree of dignitas. One might say.
Hmm. And we
Well,
will
thank
get
you
on
very
very
much.
well.
Yes, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah, so you have the address for this bookstore that's just off Trafalgar Square.
Okay. So that's where we're heading next.
Okay, yeah, you head down there. The street that is of this side street off Trafalgar Square is very little used. It doesn't have much of a thoroughfare of traffic or footfall going through it. But you do find there is this bookstore that's there, just with the head of books across the top of it. The front store looks like it's been like wooden panels, like shutters. That's what I'm looking for on the inside that have closed the front windows up. But there's a door, like almost like a side door that would go up to presumably like a flight of stairs that would go up to an apartment above, because you can see there are rows of windows up above here. Again, curtains all shut, and yeah, the place looks almost not deserted, but doesn't look as though it's been in business for a little while now.
Not open for a while.
Hmm.
Well, George, shall we go upstairs and knock and see if anybody's home?
Yes, we must. Hmm.
Yeah, there is a little buzzer by that side door.
Ah, buzzer.
Okay, you push the button, and after a few moments, you can hear there is a step, or footfall coming down a staircase inside, and the door opens, and a very average-looking guy that you've seen before opens the door.
Mr. Smith?
But you know him as Mr. Smith, yes.
Oh.
And
Mr.
he looks
Oh.
rather surprised to see you.
Oh, what a very strange coincidence. Mr. Smith, was it?
He
Or
raises
is
an
it
eyebrow.
Farthingay?
You have me at a bit of a disadvantage there. And yes, the name is Reginald Fotheringay.
We met at Mr. Dunbar's office.
Oh, I
the
remember.
day.
I remember.
Yes. We were hoping to speak with you about a certain book that we were researching.
A certain book.
Yes, we were sent here from like my handwriting, Charing Cross Road, and we were told that you might have some extra knowledge on das Buch. Das Book of Forbidden Knowledge, arts.
I think you'd better come in and have a word with an associate of mine.
Very good.
He looks around. Is it just how many of you are there? Because there's the other bunch
George
at the
and
hotel.
me.
Right.
It's just
Yeah,
George and me.
He looks around and says, "I'm fairly sure that from what feelers I've put out, it's not just the two of you working on this."
Well, you met my associate, Mr. Spofield Harris.
Yes, I have a feeling that my associate would probably want to have a word with all of you.
Can I ask the name of your associate?
You can certainly ask, but I won't divulge that outside. This is rather sensitive.
Please lead the way.
Maybe we go inside then.
Let's. Follow me up here, and he basically gestures for you to come inside and pull the door shut behind you. There isn't really any way for him to pull the door shut behind you because it's such a narrow staircase that goes up to what seems to be a corridor up the top of the stairs, that you're pretty much one person can only fit up this staircase at one time.
Right.
So he goes up a few steps and gestures for you to come in and to pull the door shut.
Thank you for allowing us to come inside. You seem to be aware of what we're going to say before we say it.
Well, as I mentioned, this is a particularly sensitive subject. I mean, I represent a particular branch of the government, the UK government, that has taken an interest in Miss Williams, and we've run into some problems that we're hoping that, well, frankly, a group that are completely disavowed from ourselves, or rather that we can completely disavow all knowledge of and have no link back to us, might be able to succeed where we failed. So hence I've been able to grease the wheels of certain bits of the administration that might have otherwise been preventing you from doing your job.
I think I have an idea of what you might be saying. Let me ask one question first, for the sake of our own personal security. Why were you there at Mr. Dunbar's office?
Mainly to conduct a bit of a character, not character assassination, a character assessment. That we believed that there was an impending threat on his life. We were checking to see whether he was aware of it, and if there was anyone in the area that also might be, as the parlance goes, casing the joint. Anyone that may have been around him that may have been identified as an assassin.
Oh.
So I was actually rather interested in yourself when you turned up to sit down there and wait in his waiting room.
I must admit, we have been wondering about you yourself for being there for the same reason. Can you in some way prove to the two of us that you are actually working with the government?
Yeah, and if you'd like to follow me, I'll take you up to my handler.
You have credentials. I see. Okay, yes. Handler.
Yes. This is where he's kind of talking over his shoulder as he's heading up the stairs. Yes. N doesn't particularly like his name being thrown around in public. You see.
I see. Oh, you call him by a letter, like
that's his designation. Yes.
I see. Well, that's very interesting. Yes, please lead the way.
Yeah, follow me. And he takes you upstairs to this, say, narrow corridor that seems to connect a series of these maybe flats or offices that run along this particular side of the street. And he takes you over to a red door that he just knocks on it gently. And there's a male voice on the other side that just very firmly says, "Enter." And he opens the door and gestures for you to follow him inside. And inside is this fairly dingy office. There's a desk on the far end of the room where there's a couple of telephones. There's one red, one black. There's a in tray and out tray. There's stacked papers, and this fairly gaunt individual. It doesn't look as though he's seen sunlight for probably a decade at this point. That's working there. There's an ashtray on one side that's just filled of cigarette butts, and a nice inkwell on one side, and this odd-looking green soapstone statue perched on the edge of the desk that's got pointed towards him. From the back, though, it looks almost like it's got some kind of bald head or tentacle face or squid feature, but then the back has got this pair of wings that are tucked back, sat on this cuboid almost plinth with weird marks surrounding the base. And that's what you see immediately at the other end of the room. To the corner that's opposite him, near a window, there's a large bookcase where there's a whole array of fairly old books. And glancing over just literally at some of the titles, for someone such as yourself that has knowledge of these things, that some of these titles are familiar, such as the Sussex Manuscript. There's De Vermis Mysteries, Unersprachlichen and Colton. Yes. So these are books that you would be familiar with as being of a certain kind of discerning reader. And scattered all over the floor at the base of the bookcase are lots of folders that all have the same mark on the front that just says top secret. They're marked with Ministry of Defense or Ministry of War, depending on how old the files are. These are all definitely government papers that have just been thrown with a degree of disregard on the floor, whereas these books are treated with a definite reverence as to how they've been put on these shelves.
You're an occult branch of the English government.
Oh, the gentleman behind the desk kind of chuckles slightly at that. I wouldn't necessarily say we're a branch particularly dedicated solely to the occult, but we represent a branch of the government that are interested in the occult. So there's a subtle difference here.
Fascinating.
Well, I was asking for some sort of verification that I could trust you as members of the British government.
Would you like to speak to Mr. Churchill? I can get him on the phone if you want.
No, that's not necessary. I do believe you, because there's otherwise what an elaborate setup you would have here for absolutely no reason whatsoever. So, if I may begin at the beginning, our group, as you might call it, it actually begins with me and one of my other neighbors, who happen to be the neighbors, and I will go through the list of the everything that's happening. And there seems to be some sort of witchcraft, if you will, going on, using the Book of Forbidden Arts, or rather the marginalia in the book. But that was supplied by the bookseller, and we suspect that that the lady in question is in fact summoning something. I think that's about as far as that we've gotten. But we do recognize that we may be in severe danger because of this fire thing. I think that we're all stockpiling fire extinguishers and buckets of water. I would like very much to bring the others in on this now that we've met you. You seem to be rather secretive.
Yeah, this does seem to be something I think we should all be singing from the same hymn sheet on. He turns to Fotheringay and says, Reggie, would you be able to get a car to go over to this? I presume as you filled them all and you would say where the others are. That you get Reggie, get a car sent over to the hotel and bring them here so that we can have a discussion with everyone face to face.
Rose should probably go with you just to make sure that he doesn't. If you came up and said, come with us, they'd be quite frightened. That
sounds completely reasonable. So yeah, if one of you wishes to go collect the others, that would certainly help speed things along.
Well, Grace will definitely be reluctant because he's more enthralled by all these texts and statue. He's kind of not paying attention to the conversation. He's more looking and wanting to dive into.
Now, Mr. Gross was perhaps the first witness to the actual object in question, the thing.
Yes. This is also fascinating. I could spend
we'll go
hours
get the others
looking.
And bring them back as quickly as possible. Will they be at my place?
They'll be at the hotel, so you could get
they'll be at the hotel.
Over to Mayfair from here isn't too difficult a ride. You could probably be there and back in the space of about half an hour. So
there's also a question of a large, fairly not very large, triangular slab of marble that we'll have to get to you. We don't know how it relates yet, but we did find it.
That definitely sounds like something we can have our guys have a look at.
It's next to the primrose in my garden.
Hidden under the tarp, yeah.
Hidden under the tarp.
What is this statue? As I look at them.
Yeah, he'll reach over and turn it round slowly towards you, seeing this very tentacular tentacular face.
Oh,
He will have go
South Seas Islands.
very close representations of this particular entity have been discovered all over the world in various forms. Some have been recovered from the coast of Greenland, others from the east coast of the United States. It's unfortunately it's popped up all over the place, and this particular one came to us.
Is it always the seafaring people, the octopoid?
Well, either seafaring or those that live under the sea. Yeah, he doesn't laugh.
The merfolk. So has George gone?
Sounds like he was going to be the one that was looking into the books, but we can do a quick montage that if you want to have gone to pick up, or George has gone to pick up the others, then you can be all brought into N's office at this point.
This is Mr. Leland. He's my neighbor. He was severely burned by the thing in question.
I noticed the bandages kind of give it away.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you. I wasn't expecting this kind of anything, but
it seemed we've stumbled on a secret of the government. All the help we can get.
We're not exactly secret, but we are classified. We work within an organization that's been relatively newly formed, referred to as the Special Operations Executive. So, but myself, my connection with the UK government precedes the current conflict by a number of decades. I was assigned to this particular branch, but even so, even with all the access that we have, we still run into the problem that fortunately we are bound by legal tape as much as anyone else. And he grits his
this
teeth
is Mr. Angrave. He's a private detective. And this is Mr. Spofford Harris. We are all associated with Teresa, and that's why we all got involved. Quite innocently.
So you also understand the dire circumstances that we are in?
Yes, we've approached this from a somewhat different angle to fill you in on how we got involved in this. Fotheringay here, and he gestures to Reggie in the corner, became aware through just mundane intelligence gathering that reports of falling stars over a warehouse in Silvertown had been reported the back end of last year. And once we started to get what corroborating witness statements we could, that basically come down to a few kids that have been playing late out in the streets that night, had seen what they described as a falling star come down from the sky, which, obviously, from your discussions with this Miss Janice Dobs, seems to describe this around the same time that Williams performed this rite to call this thing down from the heavens. We've encountered creatures like this before in at least some texts and some operations that we've performed. That they are particularly dangerous, and anyone that's wielding these things could effectively have a very potent weapon of arson at their disposal. Not to mention also the fact they would have so much light available to them that would make it very easy for German bombers to be able to find where they were calling them. So again, it's a mundane security concern, even if you take away the element of strangeness around this. But once we'd started digging and found that it was kind of owned by the Williams Shipping Company, that presented a whole barrage of problems for us, because the Williams family, as you've already identified, have significant political influence. If we're going to be moving against them, we need to have an airtight and completely irrefutable or undebunkable barrage of evidence of our own to support any kind of movement we make. We cannot go into this without a full ammo, or a full gun loaded, if you get my meaning here. And that's the problem we've stumbled into. We've got plenty of circumstantial evidence. We've got plenty of reports to corroborate, she purchased a certain book, but that's not going to stand up in court just by saying, she brought a book that could potentially have arcane information in that. That's not going to hold up in any court in the land. Not here, not anywhere in the world.
Yes, so they'll just laugh you out of court.
Precisely. We need complete concrete evidence that if she was involved in a crime, then we can move against her. We can get paperwork to be able to, basically a warrant to be able to go into her house, into her residences, her places of work, that warehouse, and find any incriminating information that would tie her to this, but anything criminal, we can then lock her up. That's our problem. And that's why Fotheringay here, once he identified the fact that it seemed that there was another group of people sniffing around the same topic that were not connected with the government, you effectively presented us with a great opportunity that we couldn't pass up, having a complete group that we could completely disavow all knowledge of, because it won't come back and burn us. But now that you've come to our door, I think it's time that we join forces and actually work a bit more as one on this. So if you're willing to act with us, and, well, if all else goes well, potentially even join our little network, that this would be of great benefit to both of our groups.
I should think it substantially increases the likelihood that we shall survive next week, given that Ms. Williams is a rather implacable enemy.
I'm not so worried about survival. We are British citizens, and we do believe in, standing up for what's right. But it seems to me that you're asking us to be able to use our anonymity to do what you can't, to get in where you can't go to. But are you authorizing us to stop what's going on?
Depends what she's doing. I mean, we need to work out what it is that she's doing. If she purely has some vendetta against three people, hopefully it's all resolved now, but we don't know. That's the problem, that all the information that would point towards why she's doing this, how she's doing it, and why she's doing it is all locked up in her house, or maybe the warehouse down by the Docklands.
I'm not particularly good at infiltration. I mean, we're going to be spies after all.
Romantic twiddle. Speaking of which, it's N.
Yes.
So you don't know what I was hoping you might, which is what sort of apocalyptic notions that Williams has.
Again, whatever information she has, we're guessing if she has it, will be in her place of residence. Probably unlikely that it would be in the warehouse or any other place of work connected with the Williams shipping company. Given that she's hardly left that building, we imagine it would be in her residence, but we can't get in there. At least none of our, let's say, full-time members of staff would be, because if it came back that where they had acted and not found what they were looking for, they could land themselves in some very hot water indeed. But as I said, we have no direct, official, on paper connection with the five of you. But we can arrange for you to have all the paperwork necessary to make it look like you're acting with proper authority. So we can arrange for fake police IDs to be produced for you, and then a warrant to be issued for you to have a look and gain access to the Williams estate, the Williams house. Once you're in there, would then be your job to find whatever you can to basically build a case around her.
I think we'd have to have some sort of guarantee that should we get into a great deal of legal problems in this, that you'll bail us out. so to speak.
Yes, we can do that because we can make, well, not that I'm wanting to disturb you by using this term, we can make people like yourselves disappear quite easily.
No,
So being able to remove you from any kind of danger, not a problem. But it's significantly harder to remove one of our own that is already a known member of either the SOE or Network N, to be able to get them out of that problem. So this is where your disconnect from our organization becomes a very potent advantage that we can use.
Okay, understood. We've already proven ourselves as capable detectives and researchers. This is just the next step.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Mr. Ongrave, I believe that what he's telling us is that should we get into a serious danger, scrape, they can relocate us to a secret location and we can start new lives. But that means that our current lives will be swept away. I mean, I have a rather substantial, rather small estate.
Quite frankly, I have nothing to lose.
I wouldn't want
I'm
to
not
lose
married.
all of that, though.
That's also at the very extreme end. This is like a last-ditch resort. We wouldn't just do this as a default action, because as I say, it completely upturns people's lives, and it's a lot of effort for us to do this. But if it's necessary, then we can do it. But that's only of a case of if we need to.
If you need to do it.
Yeah,
well, I would
come to that.
I imagine that Mr. Gross and I would very much want to keep our collection. So that would have to be spirited away as well and brought to a new location. Mr. Spofford Harris has a rather lucrative job.
Yes, well, I mean, we're in the midst of war on more than one level. Of course, I'd rather keep my comfortable home intact and continue to work at the law firm, but it's not precisely the greatest concern, particularly if this woman, who was capable of summoning sentient balls of fire out of the sky, believes the world's about to end. We might have larger matters at hand than whether we keep the terrazzo in our back garden.
Well, the gods
I
are watching
really
us after all.
enjoy the terrazzo in my back garden,
Yeah,
but
it's very handsome.
So do it for Queen and Country, I guess. Makes it's a sacrifice we all have to do, isn't it?
Yes, I'll put my king. Yes.
Yeah, King and Country at this point.
Sorry. Well, I know the future.
And
Also,
yeah, go.
sorry, I was just going to say the book was in German. She could be a German. And in that case, all bets are off.
That would, if you found evidence of that, that would also make my life a lot easier by being able to pull her in.
Well, one question regarding the legal component is and thank you, by the way, for getting us out of Detective Drake's office. We could have been there for weeks. The two men who succumbed in Teresa Hughes' back garden, they can be identified as as Williams' employees, could they not?
They could be, especially as you've seen from what Mr. Green was saying, that you now at least have the surname of one of them. But there's nothing to completely, and with a watertight argument here, state that they were acting under her orders. They could have been acting under her own volition. This also brings in lots of going round in circles, and it hovers around an issue where we again don't have any concrete proof. And this is again, we've butted heads on this a number of times, trying to find ways around this.
Do you have any idea whether she summoned up more than one of these things?
Oh, well, we know that she has. There's reports of falling stars that have been happening all through all since the last winter.
Dear God!
And so that we know that she summoned at least 6.
Oh, dear God! She could burn the whole city to the ground if she wanted to.
Not with just 6 of those.
In a fit of pique.
They the small ones. Yeah, not so much the small ones, but there are larger ones than than that. And he looks across to George as he says that and says, yeah, those gods that you say are watching, I believe that. And he just taps the statue on the desk.
Yes.
Our original reason for coming here was to see if we could deduce where the book that she has that's got all the marginalia has come from. Any ideas on that?
We tried to do that same kind of thought trail back, but it seems to be private collections going back at least a couple of generations. And this particular book that she's had, we have no idea who wrote the marginalia notes in there, or even what's in it. But it just seems to have been passed down from a number of estate sales. One's passed to the next, and it seems like we're going down a dead end unless we've got some way of being able to go back in time and discuss with whoever wrote the damn things in the marginalia.
Oh. Mr. Ongrave, do you have any burglaring capabilities?
I might.
If we get a hold of the book, that may stop her unless she's memorized it.
I'm good at sneaking around as well.
I mean, as I said, we can definitely get your foot in the door. We can provide you with enough official paperwork that she would be stupid to be to just turn you away at her front door again. Like, we can arrange for you to have falsified IDs and a warrant to be able to enter the premises and ask questions in your inquiries to Miss Williams. And then if one or more of you decided that you wanted to go and use the restroom and then start to have a look around to find that book, well, it'd be a shame if you happened to find it and it fell into your pocket, wouldn't it?
Indeed.
Well then, you've been appraised of our plan to stake out Whitaker's office in the hotel Riverside, but you think that's not a viable opportunity for capturing one of these falling stars?
I think Mr. Green was saying that that's where where part of your group had been based. My feeling is, and why I'm quite happy to have called you all here, is that I don't believe they would be making a move upon Whitaker if he was there. This is until this evening, until Fomalhaut rises over the horizon. So you'd have until at least 10 o'clock tonight before that happened.
The star.
Yes, these entities are connected with Fomalhaut, or rather the entity that resides around Fomalhaut.
That's interesting. I do have astronomy, so
yeah.
Fomalhaut. Fomalhaut is the brightest star in the constellation Pisces Austrinus, the southern fish. In the northern hemisphere, it is normally seen in autumn, low in the sky near the southern horizon. Its brightness, more than 10 times greater than our sun, in comparison to other stars at this time of year, leads it to sometimes being referred to as the lonely star of autumn. Its modern name derives from Arabic, meaning mouth of the fish, as was described by Ptolemy. The constellation depicts the fish drinking water from the jar held by Aquarius. Others depict the fish saving the world by swallowing the waters of the Great Flood. The Persians call it Hastarang, and it was regarded as one of the 4 royal stars that guarded the 4 districts of the night sky. In ancient Greece, Fomalhaut was used as a marker in worship of Demeter, the goddess of harvest, and Eleusis, a municipality in West Attica. The Greeks also associated the star with Typhon, the beast believed to be buried under Mount Etna. In Syria and Canaan, the star was seen to be a symbol of the fish god Dagon. The temple to Dagon in Gaza, destroyed by Samson, was believed to have been oriented towards where the star rose in the night sky. So a lot of mythology tied to Fomalhaut.
Yes.
Indeed, and mythology has roots in somewhat darker truths.
Indeed.
You said entities surrounding Fomalhaut?
Yes, the entity in particular, this I hate to use the word God, but unfortunately, it's a word that has been attributed to certain entities which are of a cosmic scale beyond what man can comprehend. And again, he looks over to George at the mention of this, who was also vanished appropriately at the time. But yes, the this particular entity, some referred to it as a god, others refer to it just as a being, an old one, a great old one, some might say. That some refer to it as Cthulhu, the living flame. Cthulhu does not move alone, though. Fthogwa is its herald.
I'm sorry, who's it? Herald?
Fthogwa, say a lesser being, almost think of it as a comet size ball. In fact, some say that it actually travels the universe on a comet.
Huh. You'll have to write these words down for me.
He actually will spell that out, because if you can find any documentation that contains this particular word, then it could potentially be evidence to prove, to at least to him, that she is actually dealing more with this kind of level of entity rather than just these small little balls of flame.
But you were telling me that a classified branch of the British government acknowledges extraterrestrial entities that exist on distant stars?
Members of a particular branch, yes. The branch itself denies all such knowledge of these things.
I always wondered.
The official stance is this does not exist.
George and I fully believe in certain aspects of the occult. I always wondered if the government, having to keep it secret, because otherwise they'll think you're lunatics. But
you see our problem.
That's very interesting.
He writes down on on a sheet of paper a couple of the words that he's thrown out there. So you've got Cthugha, Cthugha, Fthogwa, which is Fthaggua, and the comet that Fthogwa supposedly uses to traverse the universe is Ktynga. Katinga.
Whoa.
It sounds like
then.
jazz.
So is this facility prepared to give us papers to go to the Williams house immediately?
Well, we can't produce this such documentation at the drop of a hat, unfortunately.
Right.
To be able to produce a set of documents that would be able to fool Williams and her staff, it's going to take a few hours to put together. We should have it ready by tomorrow morning.
Right. So tonight we wait in the hotel for Fomalhaut to rise with our fire extinguishers. In the morning we come back to a bookshop near Trafalgar Square to get false papers to infiltrate the home of a wealthy paralytic heiress. I think I shall need to engage a psychiatrist after this adventure.
we can arrange
for
one of those.
Don't we want to return to our respective dwellings and freshen up? Or do you think that's dangerous?
I don't think there's any danger at the minute. If you were in any danger, she probably would have acted by now.
I see.
You were saying something about her directing them somehow, and I felt when I was in Dunbar's office that the little sprite disliked me enormously, but didn't have orders to assault me, and so left me unscathed. Is that a possibility? Do you think these things are sufficiently intelligent?
Intelligent, but capable of emotion. That's not quite what we've been led to believe about them.
Having just seen a colleague of some years immolated, I may have had emotional responses that were unwarranted. I can't say.
What about Whitaker? Is he going to be immolated?
Well, you say you've got him out of the area, so
So she'll have to know where he is in order to do anything.
yes.
Does that leave if she thinks he's at the hotel, is the hotel going to be attacked?
Well, that's why we plan to be there.
Hmm.
And we know that her little sparkly friends can't just locate someone through magic, or they wouldn't have misidentified Teresa's home.
Mm-hmm. At least
Well,
Dunbar, it sounds like they went to his office because that was his office. That was somewhere that he was almost certainly expected to be at that particular time.
Oh, does that mean the thing was summoned the night before? If it can't be reached until after the dawn of Fomalhaut.
It could have been bound on Earth for a long time before that.
Oh, word.
and the first time they summoned it. I mean, I got the distinct impression then that he summoned it to immolate himself at Teresa's house.
Oh, I'd forgotten what you'd said about that. There was so much that happened in the back garden, but it seemed as though, yes, they want to burn.
Yeah, which does also provide beg one again loose end that we have in our investigation, that Dunbar was killed in his office, but Chamberlain's body was never found when the wreckage was sifted through at his house.
Well, I imagine sufficient enough fire would reduce one to ashes.
Even fire still, it takes a considerably intense heat to be able to completely destroy even bone. There was no trace of his body or any part of it having been found in that wreckage.
Yes, I think teeth generally survive incineration.
And
Right.
if he had metal fillings, they would have survived.
Well, they would have probably melted at that temperature. So you're saying Chamberlain wasn't there?
Well, we
Or
believe
he
he was
was-
there. It's just his body wasn't found.
Okay, it's starting to feel a little like a Agatha Christie mystery wrapped in there. Do you think that the woman in question would not have necessarily gone after him because he supposedly did do a very, very good job on her face? He just couldn't restore the she didn't have emotional.
Well, this is something for you to potentially pursue and find out when you have access to her residence. Maybe she's kidnapped him, and maybe she's holding him for some other purpose. And if you could find where he's being held, well, kidnapping is a very serious offence that we could levy the full weight of the law against her with. So again, this is another loose end to try and find out exactly what's going on.
Well, very exciting. I hope we don't get killed.
Oh, I very much hope that as well. Frankly, it's the last thing I want to have happen to me.
Well.
I think it's, as you say, it would be quite advantageous or quite prudent to head back to your various places of residence, freshen up, and be ready before Fomalhaut rises over the southeastern horizon at about 10 o'clock tonight.
Oh, okay. Yes, I can also get some sidereal charts so that we know exactly when Fomalhaut rises each night and when it sets.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
And yep, he will arrange, or N will order Fotheringay to arrange transport to get you back to your place of residence, and will then also be able to get you to the hotel afterwards. And that seems about as good a point as any for us to bring the curtain down for tonight, and we can pick up at the hotel next week.
Excellent. Our players included Max Meltzer, Josh Harwood, Alex Sun, David Gasway, and myself, with Matthew Sanderson as the Keeper of Arcane Lore. We have a Discord server where you can chat with other members, you can set up private games, you can learn the finer arts of gameplay and game mastering. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Spotify, Podbean, or iTunes. Support for the show is provided by our Patreons, who are listed in the closing credits. If you'd like to join them, please visit our Patreon page listed in the description. Or you can use Super Thanks by hitting the button just below the screen. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows. And leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answering any questions you might have. This is Thom Raley, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck, good gaming.